face you was pulling, whether he's actually enjoying that, or it's just part of the job.
It's all part of the job, Steve. I rode it in at Coupe Moto Le Jean at Dijon in France earlier this year, and it's a real handful.
Yeah, it certainly looks a little different, you know. Well, the whole machine, I was going to say, the rear of the bike as well, but just tell us kind of how old this bike is and a little bit about its history and why.
Yeah, I mean, the museum owns a couple of these machines. It's the NVT, the Norton Villiers Triumph Cosworth Challenge, and it was in the 70s, following the Commando. It was Norton's last gasp, if you like, of racing. Pretty unsuccessful, as many of you will know. The engine's a quarter of a Cosworth V8 F1 engine, and as such, it is extremely heavy, and a lot of the weight's carried up at the top end. One of the principal issues, the bottom end is very strong, but they had a lot of problems with cooling, and we've had a lot of problems with cooling. In fact, if I'm honest with you, we've only got it back together yesterday. We've had to Carole dyed the water pump impeller onto the shaft, but with a view to doing it properly over the winter. But a lot of the problems that they had with the machine back in the 1970s still plague the bike today. But it sounds awesome. It's one hell of a thing to ride, very torquey, and an interesting thing, but very, as I say, sadly, very unsuccessful in the hands of Dave Croxford in sort of the 76, 77 seasons.
So it's plenty of history then, obviously a lot of mechanical development. Now, obviously, this machine can be viewed, I guess, at the Motorcycle Museum, the National Motorcycle Museum, all year round. You have a vast majority of machinery there, you know, and you've had a good year, especially the Classic TT this year.
Yeah, Steve, and of course, something Steve knows all about, because he rode our one of the Works rotaries, the Hislop, famous Hislop 1992 rather, winning senior TT winning bike, the White Charger, which Steve rode at the Festival of Derby. But as Steve said, the museum did have a very successful Classic TT in that we ran Michael Dunlop on his dad's old Works rotary, the black JPS bike, in a parade on the Saturday of the Classic TT event, where Michael posted a 109 mile an hour lap from a standing start on a bike he'd never sat on. The first time he'd sat on the bike, as Steve knows, we were on the grid on Glencrutchery Road there, and so Michael put in an amazing performance, if you can imagine. He'd never even sat on a bike. We'd not set the bike up for him, suspension-wise or anything, and yet he still put in 109 mile an hour laps. So that's amazing credit to Michael. But he really enjoyed it. He was really touched to be able to ride his dad's old Works rotary. The museum has all the work. We've got pretty much all the Works rotaries in the collection. We've got about 18 Works rotaries, and two of these beasts.
Two of these beasts, there's an awful lot of bikes to maintain and to look after and keep clean. Do you actually do an awful lot of riding yourself at various events, parades, and obviously around Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough to do a little bit. But what we want to do with the museum more, we've done a lot this year and we're going to do even more next year. It's very important that people see that the bikes run, that the museum isn't a static, dry, dead place. And because a lot of people accuse museums of that, and in the past some people have accused the National Motorcycle Museum of that, and that can be fair comment. But what we're trying to do is get the bikes like this out to events, and not just run them up sort of static, but we also put in riders like Michael Dunlop on them, for example. That's the perfect example of how we want the bikes to be used in the way that they were designed to be used, very hard, if you like. And Michael did thrash the nuts off it, and when we lost the end of the exhaust off it when he bottomed it out at Vagaro, I think. So, that's very much in the museum's strategy, if you like, Steve. Yeah, to run the bikes and to run more and more bikes each year. And we've got a big programme next year already, including the Classic TT again. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, mate. Thanks for sharing that with us. Ladies and gents, I'd like to put your hands together for this man, Mr. Frankie Keeling.
Woo!
Frankie, what about this?
Come on. There you go. Nice to meet you, everybody.
How about riding something like this in a classic or a parade or something? Does that float your boat, or is it something you're not really too interested in? You prefer the old two-stroke?
I have some opportunity to test to driving again some old bike.